in the Western world, more so in some places than others. Where I live and work in the United States, it's particularly egregious. In fact, to have this debate, or to raise the issue of this motion, would be, or can be considered anti-Semitic in and of itself. I mean, Walt and Mearsheimer, who've just been under discussion, these two serious profs, they have been accused of being anti-Semitic for suggesting that the Israeli lobby has an effect, and a deleterious effect, on US foreign policy. It's true that in other parts, in some countries, such as this one, there is a little more room for maneuver, but that may be a measure of Britain's importance or lack of it. So I think what we're concerned about here is the relevant debate, the real political arena, which, given the attitude of the British government and European governments, indeed to US policy on the matter, really is made in the United States. And there it's very clear that there are, red lines that you really, as a politician or journalist, dare not cross. If you know what's good for you, you'll refer to, for instance, the wall, this obscene creation across the occupied territory of the West Bank, as a fence. The New York Times did so. Last week, the New York Times had a piece on security walls, and they talked about the Great Wall of China, the Berlin Wall, described as walls, the wall that's presently being built in Baghdad to divide the Sunni and Shia communities. That was a wall. And then the picture of this enormous thing on the West Bank, and that was called a border barrier, even though, in fact, it's not on the border. So it's, it goes across the board, and you defy that at your peril. All the discussion about Carter's book was not about what was in it, which is actually fairly ordinary, but about this horrific fact that he'd used the word apartheid, and then, the showers of abuse that Norman mentioned. So, a more recent example, just the other, you can't refer to Barack Obama, presidential candidate, tried to refer to the sufferings of the Palestinian people, had to apologize. It's, it's something every journalist and politician lives with in America, and it's just a fact of life.
Andrew Cockburn, thank you very much. You live in America. What are these red lines that you're living with?
Well,
what are these lines you dare not cross?
Well, I know I'd be very serious trouble if I started writing on a consistent basis.
What does that mean, serious trouble?
Well,
what's
just
serious
in terms
trouble?
of getting work as
How do you mean?
I'm a freelance writer.
Well, have you had difficulty getting work?
Well, after I published the book you mentioned, yes, I had great difficulty getting work for several years.
But you're still getting paid? You're still earning a living?
Well, not writing about Israel.
You say, of course, the debate is stifled and egregious, but you don't. What are the examples of this? Where is this egregious and stifled debate?
Well, in this country, for example...
we talked about Jimmy Carter. They're having the debate at the moment.
Well, not really, no. They're absolutely not debating. They definitely refused. And the most sterling example I can give is the way Norman's been treated. There he is, a very serious scholar of this issue, who's done very deep and intensive work on it, and he is disgustingly libeled as a Holocaust denier, particularly disgusting because his parents were in the Nazi slave camps. It's absolutely outrageous.
Andrew Cockburn, thank you very much indeed. Now let me ask David Aaronovitch, please, to speak against the motion.
Yes, I suppose I stand as the sole representative of Western debate outside the United States, since all previous references have actually been to events inside the United States. There was an attempt that Andrew made to suggest that somehow or other, I think your phrase, Andrew, was, there's a little more room here in Britain, but that's probably a measure of the country's lack of importance. I took that to mean that it wasn't sufficiently important for the pro-Israel lobby to start lobbying hard in Britain because it wasn't considered to be significant enough. That is, that's very, very close to being a kind of gratuitous insult to the country. However, because we have an ability to debate everything openly, one of the things that you will discover if you stay here for any length of time is that there is a vigorous debate about Israel in Britain. And I would hazard a guess that in France, in Italy, and in Germany, you could not also possibly say that any Israel lobby controls the terms of the debate or seeks to stifle it. So what I'm going to say to you first, just as we begin, is that what may be arguably true of the United States is simply not true of Europe, and therefore you couldn't actually pass this motion on the basis that it was put in any case. It simply isn't true of Britain, that there is an attempt, or a big attempt, to stifle debate in this country by any so-called Israel lobby. There isn't a big Israel lobby in this country, and it doesn't stifle debate. The Israel lobby is the great "we was robbed" attack of those people who believe that history has unjustifiably gone against them. And I submit to you that the problem with it is that it actually constructs not a proper argument, it evades a proper argument while giving you two racial stereotypes for the price of one. The manipulative Jew on the one hand, and the childish Muslim who can't get an argument together on the other, and that's a good reason for rejecting the motion.
All right, David Aaronovitch, thank you very much indeed. Where the motion refers to the United States, you're prepared to believe it, is that right?
No, I'm not prepared to believe it.
You said
either.
arguably
No,
true of the United States.
Only in the sense that it's unarguably untrue of the West of the West.
Would you like to deconstruct that into a positive statement?
No, I'll
yes, it may be true, or no, it won't be true.
No, I don't think it is true. I think the reason why Americans tend to like Israel is not because of the lobby, of the pro-Israel lobby, though that is a very successful lobby. The reason why they tend to...
And very powerful.
It may be powerful, but it's only powerful because Americans are pre-inclined